This is a video review of Transformers Prime Beast Hunter's Voyager class Optimus Prime. If you're thinking, hey, that sounds familiar, haven't you done this guy before? Yes, I have, kinda. Last year, around this time, I reviewed a figure with the exact same name, although it was a different figure than this. Transformers Prime Beast Hunter's Voyager class Optimus Prime. What's weird about this is that for a long time, I thought this figure was the other figure because I hadn't seen pictures of it, I just saw people talking about this. I mean, I know now it's a different figure, but it took a while for me to realize that something new and interesting was going to come out, because I thought it was just a re-release of the same figure. Now, what's interesting about this, and kind of unfortunate, is if you were to look for an eBay listing or a video review of this guy, I don't know how you would refine your search terms to actually get this guy as opposed to the other figures. So you need to slog through reviews of the other guy to get to this guy. And it's definitely a problem with his marketing, although not with the figure itself. Now, I don't know how many people agree with me about this figure, but I think this figure is actually a very big deal. It's not the best figure of all time, but he is a big deal. And to demonstrate why I think that, I'm going to be doing a size comparison, which is not something I normally do. Now remember, this guy is a Voyager class figure released in 2014, and so is the figure I'm going to bring in. Yup, that is real. That size difference is real. Whirl is a good size Voyager class figure. He's thin because he's a helicopter, but he's a good size. Optimus Prime dwarfs him. Just dwarfs him. And that means that Hasbro snuck a leader class sized figure into the Voyager class price point, which is amazing. They did lots of interesting things to pull it off too, like when you make a figure this big, you need to solve several problems, like it has to be able to support its own weight, and this guy can't support his own weight. And the way they did that is with a very cheap ratchet mechanism that I've never seen before. Look at how cheap this is made, because this is one part different from just being a normal hinge. It's a good strong ratchet, but look, the pawl in there, in ratchet anatomy, the ratchet itself is the gear teeth. The pawl is what presses against the gear teeth to make the sound and actually make the joint tight. So the pawl in there rotates and it's mounting, it rolls and it's mounting. And that means that you get some freedom in the ratchet mechanism, but there's always pressure applied to the joint, and it's a strong ratchet mechanism too. It's very durable, it's going to last. So I'm very pleased with its ratchet mechanism because it's very cheap. I hope we see it again in the future because it's not as bulky or as complex as some other ratchet mechanism, but it works just as well. So hopefully this means we'll be able to see more budget put into more interesting transformations or detailing or designs, and less budget put into doing mundane things like a ratchet mechanism, because this is just a great innovation. Now, the next thing they did to make sure that this guy can support his own weight is, well, if you look at this guy, he looks big and beefy, right? It's mostly a facade, because he's actually quite a hollow figure. There was no way around this, actually, because to make this guy this price point, they had to make him hollow so that the plastic could go a long way to making him big, and also so that he would not be too heavy for him to actually, for his own weight, because I'm sure these ratchet mechanisms are not actually as tight as some other more complex ones, but they are great for this figure and figures of this size and smaller. So this makes sure that he can hold his own weight, and that he is inexpensive to actually make. So unavoidable. I get why people don't like this. I don't like it either, but there is a good reason. It's not just like in the 2012 Fall of Cybertron line where they just made the figures hollow just to save a buck. There is an engineering purpose behind this. Now, if you don't like this and you want to cover him up, you can use a shield, plug it into his butt, and then that will distract from all the hollowness. It works very well, actually. So you do have a solution for this to make it a little bit better. And from the front, it looks like he's alive with energy, so it doesn't look bad either. But if you don't want him to, if you want to actually use a shield, you do have to kind of live with this. Now, the final thing they did to make this possible is, in the design of this guy, they already recouped their losses from it. They didn't have to spend money actually designing this guy, except for adapting this design to the Voyager, well, to the leader class size point, basically. Because this design is an upscaled version of the Cyberverse figure we got last year. I get why people don't like this, because we've already seen this before. It's not too much of a new thing. It's almost like an upscaled knockoff, except it has too much quality to actually be a knockoff. It's definitely it definitely knocks points off the figure. That's not something original, but considering that I liked the original figure and this is a good upgrade to it, I don't mind it too much. I've talked about the engineering behind this figure. Hopefully that was interesting to you. I don't want to talk about it anymore because I've covered what I really want to talk about. Let's talk about the actual figure itself now. Now, this guy basically has good articulation. The arms go around 360, although one thing you need to watch out for is that the shoulder pads will sometimes go over his head and cause that to happen. That will happen at times. So they can go 360, watch out for the shoulders. Now the shoulders will go in and out, but again the shoulder pads will get in the way of that, so be careful about that. Then he will rotate above the elbow, then he'll bend at the elbow, and that's it for the arms. I wish he had something with his wrist, but that's about it. His head is kind of unfortunate because it cannot rotate side to side, just looks up and down, so that's unfortunate. His legs are basically fully featured. They go forward and back, in and out, rotate above the knee, and at the knee, and you get a little bit of toe articulation down here. My big problem with the legs is that you cannot get them closer than this without these things bumping into each other, which has been unfortunate. And the other thing is that this green thing, and I hate the green plastic on this. I wish they had just made it gray. I get that's supposed to look like inner jump, but it is unfortunate. This will intersect with its legs sometimes, so you may have to push this up to get the actual pose you want. Now, that's basically the posability in this mode. You do get quite a few accessories with this guy. You get a shield, you get a nice sword, and you get a pressure missile, which actually fires quite well. Although I'm not quite a fan of its design because it looks like a tiny gun with some stuff around it to make it look bigger than it is. Now the shield, you can either plug into his arm like this, or you can put into his hand like this. And it's nice in his hand because it means that you can put it into lots of different positions. You can have him just hold it in front of him like this, like an actual shield, or you can have him cross it over his chest a little bit like this to protect most of his body. It works quite well. His sword you can put into his hand, and I wish he had hand articulation so he could actually wield it, like push it forward like this, because that would make some nice poses with him, but unfortunately you can't do that. The gun will also fit into his hand, but you can also put into his wrist like this, like a wrist-mounted blaster. So I like his accessories. He looks quite beefy with all these accessories. I mean, he's just a good-looking figure from the right angles, and he's just very impressive and nice like this. Now, the transformation of this guy is the same as the Cyberverse figure that he's based off of, but it is kind of streamlined. It has better pegs and stuff that make sure it goes together a bit better. Now, to transform this guy, you're going to want to straighten out the arms, rotate them around like this, and then bend them 90 degrees, and then tab them into his shoulders here. Like this, and like this. Rotate his head back, pull this up, split the legs a little bit, rotate these back, fold up the feet, and then the legs will kind of dangle for a while. We'll deal with them in a little bit. But you want to pull the waist apart like this, and then what happens is, if you look here, there are two little red tabs on the back side of the cab section here. That's what actually keeps the chest from rotating. You want to pull this apart a little bit, and then bring it around like this. Then you want to pull back the pelvis section as far as you can and make sure the head is pushed into this crevice here while you're rotating this around, or else stuff will start banging into other stuff. And then what you want to do is you want to push these all the way up as far as you can, push the waist forward, and there are little tabs right here that will go into little holes right here. That will help keep everything aligned. Make sure the legs are kind of out of the way, which is a bit of a bit annoying. And then you want to rotate these up, and there's a little tab right here that will clip around the mounting for the head. So bring this up and bring it in like this. Do the same to the other side. Bring this up and then up like this, and peg the arms together like this. Make sure this stays tabbed in. It won't stay tabbed in until you finish your transformation. And to do that, you want to bring the legs up, and there's a little tab right here that will go over his thumb here, and a little tab that will go under it too. So the hands are part of how this holds together like this. And then you will push the legs together down here, and this cage section up together up here like this. Then push this down, squeeze it together to make sure it's all nice and put together. And here you have Optimus Prime in his truck mode. And it is a very nice... It is a very nice truck mode. It rolls very well. Although for some reason, this wheel right here doesn't quite want to go to the ground. I've always had that problem with the wheel. I'm not quite sure what the problem is. Even though the other wheel... this wheel right here does work a bit better than the other one. I'm not sure what the problem is. It's not too big of a problem, though, because he does roll very nicely. It's a big, beefy truck, a bit smaller than I would like, especially considering how big his robot mode is, but I do like it quite a bit. And all of his accessories will tab onto him. Now, the shield, you need to put onto this side like this, which doesn't work very well and does not leave room for the other stuff. Or, you can tap it onto this thing right here. There is a little hole here, and you can put it on here, and this will actually add to the stability of the vehicle mode, because it will keep this stuff from coming apart, because it holds... this tab is formed by this side and this side of the grating. And then you can tab the sword into the side here, and the gun into the other side. So overall, I think this is a great figure. It has problems. I can definitely see why collectors would not like this guy, but kids will love him because he's big, beefy. He has an interesting transformation, but basically a simple one, and he's just a big, good, fun, durable figure. Not necessarily what collectors want, but definitely something worth looking into if you like Transformers for actual toys, not just for display pieces. So anyway, this has been the video review of Transformers Prime, Beast Hunters, Voyager Class, Optimus Prime, the second one, not the first one. I reviewed Transformers, Power Rangers, Digimon, Macross figures, lots of stuff like that. If any of that sounds interesting, please subscribe. And you're sure to check our Facebook link down below, as well as some playlists you might be interested in, like the Let's Kinder Surprise stuff I've been doing. And yeah, thank you for watching.